You're knocking doors every day, and it's not like anyone wakes up and says, I want to go knock some stranger's door today. You definitely learn how to overcome rejection. At one point, I had up to 47 people. It took me a long time to get there. Like I said, I would go up a little bit and then I would fall to the bottom, and I'd go up a little bit more and I'd go all the way back to the bottom. So that process took me a long time to learn. It's not like I knew the most. Come on, I was a brand new agent. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The only way it really makes sense for like renting, in my opinion, is if you're like, you have a job, you're gonna live there for 6 months, and then you're leaving. Hello and welcome to Real Estate with Randall. And today I'm going to talk about my story. And I thought, who better to interview me than my brand strategist, Shayna?
Thanks so much for having me, Randall. It's been awesome getting to know you and your story. And one thing that really stuck out about you is the fact that you sold $3,000 Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door for 13 years. So can you please just explain to us, why were these vacuums $3,000?
Well, pretty much they did everything in the house, right? They were a buffer, they were a vacuum, they were a shampooer. They pretty much did everything in the house. But yeah, it was a pretty incredible time for sure.
That's pretty funny. I honestly can't say I've ever heard of a high ticket vacuum like that. So I was really surprised that that was your background. What was like the coolest part about doing door to door sales for that many years?
Well, I think it teaches you grit, right? It teaches you how to take a no. It's you're knocking doors every day, and it's not like anyone wakes up and says, I want to go knock some stranger's door today, right? So you definitely learn how to overcome rejection. And yeah, definitely learn grit. I think one of the best things I learned, I started when I was 19 years old there. And so I was a really, really good salesperson, like the bottom level, just like selling the vacuums. But every single level I tried to go up from there, like whenever I went into management, I completely bombed it. And then I had to go back and be a salesperson and relearn it. And then whenever I went and had my own franchise, I completely bombed it the first time, and then had to go back and then go relearn it and then go be successful. So, that's why I say grit. I think there was a ton that I learned as far as the sales world, just selling Kirby vacuum cleaners. So I'm really, really grateful for that aspect of it for sure.
Yeah, I actually sold solar door to door for about 6 months, not nearly as long as you were in sales. And I have to say that I think it taught me the most important lessons, more than my college degree ever taught me. And now I'm a huge advocate for everybody to go into sales, and especially door to door sales. I agree that learning how to handle rejection is such a valuable skill, and also just learning how to connect with people, build trust with people. That's something that will take you so far in life, no matter what you do.
I could not agree more. The people skills, without someone liking you or trusting you, right, you're never going to get the business, right? So definitely for sure, I was always a people person anyway, but being like in door to door sales like that for so long, you definitely get really good at making a friend really fast, which has obviously led to a lot of good things and a lot of good friendships, through my life. So I could not agree more with that.
Yeah, and since you did that for 13 years and you say you kind of moved up a level, you moved back a level, was there a point where you had people under you? Because when I sold solar, I was a part of a pretty big team and we were learning leadership. We had trainings every morning. Tell me a little bit about what that culture was like in the door to door sales industry.
Well, at one point, I had up to 47 people, like salespeople that were underneath of me. I had, a few different office people on top of that, for staff and whatever. But it took me a long time to get there. Like I said, I would go up a little bit and then I would fall to the bottom, and I'd go up a little bit more and I'd go all the way back to the bottom. So that process took me a long time to learn. But yeah, at one point, as like what they would call a DT, which is like a district, whatever. I was number one in 7 different states. I was actually double the second place person, which was really awesome. Because again, that time I tried before that, I completely failed. I went back and learned, and then I doubled the second place person. So still to this day, it's like just talking about it almost gives me a little bit of chills. Like I just remember how hard I worked and what I learned to get there. It was pretty awesome for sure. But yeah, 47 people at one point.
Whoa. Okay. Is there a tip that you would give to anybody that's managing 47 people?
Drink a lot of coffee and do a lot of meditation. No, it's yeah. I mean, that could go off on a whole nother podcast itself, right? I mean, we had five different vans that were going out every day, and so like five different managers that all had their own crew, and so yeah. I mean, I think that just really, really love on your people. We had what I always call is a volunteer army because they're all 1099 employees. I mean, we didn't pay them just to show up. They were commissioned strictly, at least those 47 salespeople. So it was a volunteer army, which I loved because it taught me retention, and which is also really good for any business I've done, right? Because, whether it's real estate or whether it was a CBD business, everything is about retention. I mean, you can get a client or a customer or whatever, but if you don't retain them, it doesn't matter. And so, for us in Kirby, it was a really big thing to love on the people and treat them well, give them a ton of extra training, because that's what's going to keep them long term, and so it taught me a lot within that. So I guess just love your people, train them the right way. I think don't ever expect anything from someone that you're not willing to do. I kind of live by that. I always try to do more than I expect of someone else, so that way they can never say anything to me, right? Because I'm out doing what I'm asking of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense that you got that award at Kirby Vacuum Cleaners and you were the top, one of the top salespeople across 7 states because you do go above and beyond. You go the extra mile and it shows clearly.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah, you went from selling vacuum cleaners to then going into CBD retail. How did you even get there? That's a totally different industry.
Well, first off, the end of the Kirby thing was a little bit wild anyway. But I had one of these friends that was just kept bugging me over and over again about like, I got the CBD thing and it's just crazy. It's blowing up. And to be honest, I really didn't trust the guy very much. And finally, after a little while, I'm like, all right, man, let me see your POS, right? Like, let me see the actual numbers. And so I actually went to his store and I looked at his numbers and I'm like, holy shit, if this guy can do this, I know I can do it. And so I actually, kind of a wild story, but I threw the rest of the money I had into opening like a retail store, completely remodeling it. I did have a partner, and he's still my best friend today. But we threw the rest of our money into this location, right? And so we actually slept in the back of the store for 8 months. And so for us, it was like sink or swim. I mean, we had to go get clients. We had to figure it out. Yeah, and so that took a whole new life of its own. You know.
Yeah, I think there's something to when you have your back against the wall, your intention to make something happen is so strong because you've got no other options.
Completely agree. Yeah.
So how did it go when you were selling CBD? What was that experience like for you?
It was cool. It's different than, stuff I've never really been into like THC or CBD too crazy much or whatever. But, this product is really cool. It's all natural. It helps with pain relief. And so I kind of got behind it. But more importantly, I really love the business aspect of things. And we just really went hard on recruiting other people. Like they gave us it's almost like an MLM, but they gave us money for every store and franchise owner that we brought into the business. And so my partner and I, we ended up bringing in, over 60 people within our, as they would call downline that we were getting paid on. And so we had one of the most profitable stores for just a period of time. And that led us to then go search out other talents, bring them in, train their employees. And, same like I did in Kirby, we went the extra mile with like really training these people in the CBD business to kick them off on the right start, which really paid off in the end. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun actually.
I was going to ask you what your biggest accomplishments were in that time. So you had one of the top selling stores.
Yeah, I mean, one of the sales volumes. I mean, in the beginning, we didn't have a ton of money, and so whenever I got into it, we didn't get the best location, right? And so we had a pretty decent performing store, but we were in the back of a shopping center, like we were in the alley, right? So you had to like Google Maps didn't even know where the hell our store was, right? And so, not trying to make excuses there, but yeah, I mean, it just wasn't the best location. So then we went on to open one other location with that partner. I partnered with someone else in Colorado. We opened two more locations, and those all did much better than our first location because we had more money, right? So we could get a better spot. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. I mean, awesome. I mean, one of the biggest accomplishments that we had there personally was the amount of people that we were able to recruit into the business and then, help them with marketing and training their employees, stuff like that. That was my biggest accomplishment within that company, I would say.
Yeah, that's cool. You were able to show people the way because you were doing it. And
Yeah.
what would you say is like one of the biggest lessons that being in the CBD retail space taught you?
Man, retail is a lot different than knocking on doors. I actually remember it was a really funny story. So my business partner and I were sitting on the couch one day, and well, he was sitting on the couch, and he's just like, "Randy, stop walking around." And for the first like few months, it was just too much. Like I'm used to being out there knocking on doors and just going full steam, right? And I'm just sitting in this store waiting for people to come into the store, right? And so it was so wild to me. It was so bizarre. It was so different. But I'm posting on social media every day to get people in the store. And I ended up going out to I actually did knock on doors with flyers. I couldn't take it anymore. We actually went and put flyers on all the vehicles at like the little shopping centers that were around us, just anything we could do to get a client. But yeah, I mean, I think it just taught me a different way to get a client and a completely different sell, right? So before I was selling $3,000 vacuum cleaners. And then I went to selling like $60 tinctures, right? So it was just a complete different sell. And then how to retain them is completely different. In Kirby, it was very much, you sell someone, you probably don't see them again. In Kirby, or I mean in CBD, it's, you want to treat them exceptionally well, right? Because you hope they keep coming back every month, and that's how you grow your store. You don't make your money off them coming in and buying one CBD purchase and then leaving and never showing up again. So you had to get really good at finding awesome ways for them to love you, love your store. It feels comfortable for them. They love to be there. And so this way they just want to come back over and over and over again. And I would say that that was cool. I think that was something I really learned with CBD.
Yeah, I would imagine that you have to basically nurture the relationships that you build with these clients because like people say, people buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? So if you establish that
Yeah,
rapport with them, they're likely to keep coming back to you for whatever their needs are.
100%. Yeah.
That makes sense. So after a while of being in CBD, I mean, how long were you doing that for?
CBD, I believe, was like 4.5 years, something like that.
Okay, so after 4.5 years, did something in particular happen that sparked you to want to move industries into real estate?
Well, I moved to Arizona because all those stores that we helped bring in were mostly in Dallas. Some was in Denver, and so we were going to do the same thing. Me and my partners in Arizona. When I got here, started finding some awesome locations. COVID happened, and obviously CBD is not an essential business, and so just the stores we were tied to was like $15,000 a month just in rent. And some of the things for the company, quite honestly, weren't going the way we wanted them to go anyway. And so I just sold out. I was like, this is enough. And we were done. And I always, always, always had, an interest in real estate. And honestly, I really missed building sales teams. And so I was looking a lot of different places. I mean, I actually looked at solar. Like you said, you were in solar there. I have some friends in solar. And so I looked at a lot of different places on where I wanted to, spend really the rest of my life. For me, this is it. This is a commitment. I'm going to build a personal brand. I'm going to be here forever. And so it's really important for me to like dig in and like find what I want to do. And so for me, I I've always wanted to invest in real estate and it always intrigued me. And the more I looked into it and looked into other things, I'm like, all right, this already intrigues me. I can build a sales team eventually. I can do all the stuff that I love to do. And so it really attracted me to real estate. So left that, joined real estate.
That's super awesome. I've always loved houses and home design. At one point, I thought I was going to be a real estate agent. I went to real estate school, but I never moved on to taking the national exams and all that. So it's cool to kind of, in a way, vicariously live through you and learn from you. So you realize that you want to get into real estate. What's the first step from there after you have that epiphany?
Well, first off, just listening to you is already listening to like some of these people I mentor right now, right? I found that a lot of people, they love houses, it looks cool, and they like them, right? And so they want to become an agent. And then they get into the business and they're like, wait, you mean I have to sell shit? You mean I have to go like I have to go cold call or door knock or sit open houses and actually sell people on using me? And it's a whole different thing, right? So they forget the sales aspect of it. They just think, oh yeah, houses are pretty. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, whenever I got my license, it's always funny. They always say it, but that license, it's like all the law stuff that pretty much you'll never use again, right? So there's a lot of learning whenever you get into real estate. There's a ton of different, even though I have a sales background, there's a ton of different learning on like where to market, where should I spend my time digging for clients, just all of that stuff. And so it's been quite a time figuring out what is the best to spend my time on because there's so many different things to do in real estate. Everyone's trying to grab your money, market with us, market over here. And so I think at first it was hard sorting through like, where do I spend my money? Where's the best return going to be for me? You know?
Yeah, it seems like in real estate school, they don't really teach you a lot about how to run the business side of real estate. And I remember learning all about these laws and things that, like you said, I'd probably never even need to know in the future. What would you say, like, real estate school did equip you with?
Well, I mean, you feel a little more confident when you know the law, right? And that's what it teaches you with. And just little guidelines that you have to know. But it really didn't give me much confidence, to be honest with you. The second you get out there, you're like, shit, this is way different, right? And so, nah, I mean, I would say the license is cool because basically it says I can hang my license with a brokerage. That's all it does. It really didn't give me, honestly, any confidence. My confidence came from all the sales background I had. Being in sales since I was 19 years old, that's what gave me my confidence. I mean, the license didn't do a damn thing, to be honest with you. So I just know I'm really good with people. I can outwork, most people I know, right? And so, and I could take a no, right? So I just needed the right path and the right vehicle. Like, how can I be in front of people so I could talk to people because I know I'm going to sell them, right?
Yeah, that's why I asked you that question because I wondered how you were able to go out into the world with such limited, education in real estate school. And it's obvious that it was your past experiences in sales that prepared you for where you are today. So I think that really speaks to the power of being in sales, especially door to door, where it's the hardest form of sales. So tell me about your first time agent experience. Do you remember when you got your first client and how did that go?
Yeah. So when I first got in the business, I actually signed up with EXP in the beginning. I interviewed with a lot of like the teams that are around here, and no offense to them, but I just didn't like any of them. I didn't think they provided enough value for what I needed or wanted, and so I just did it on my own. And so I was hitting up everybody like every single day, every EXP listing that came on. I was like, dude, can I sit your open house? Can I sit your open house? And they usually reserve those for a team. Well, lo and behold, I finally found someone that was like, yes, you can sit this house open, and it was like $2.2 million or something like that. And I just remember I went there and she loved me and she's like, you can set it open as much as you want. Awesome. And so I sat that house open literally like 47 days straight, every single day. And I did it from like 9 in the morning until it went dark. So like 7 o'clock at night. And I did that every single day. And then while I'm there, I'm just working and grinding on like, meeting new people or cold calling or something, right? But finally, it all paid off, and I found the buyer for that house. And so my very first sale was the $2.2 million house. Actually, it was
No
pretty cool.
way.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's quite an accomplishment as a first time realtor to have a house, priced at that level and to say that you were the one that made it happen. That's freaking cool. Did you like celebrate and, open a bottle of champagne that day or what?
Actually, we went out to Diana's family. My wife's family is very cool, and so they went and took me to like this nice restaurant, and it was really cool. The princess, and they were like, "This is cool. It's your first deal. You did great. Like, we're gonna take you out." I'm like, "That's awesome." So, and then the wife and I had some good wine. So, yeah, it was a good time.
So if you could kind of backtrack to the moments before that, what would you say looking back was like the determining factor that led you to create that result in your first sale?
Grit. Straight up grit, right? Because, and just not the fear of rejection, because it's not like I knew the most. I mean, come on, I was a brand new agent. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So if I did know what I was doing, I probably would have got many more clients. I mean, gosh, the only thing I wish I did do almost was I wish I knew what I knew now, which is what everyone says, right? Because if I did, with all those clients going through when it was such a hot market like that, oh my God, I would be so much further ahead. But no, so it was just purely grit. I just kept going and going and going and going until I found someone that just loved me. They knew I was new. They knew I didn't know everything, but they knew I was out to do everything I possibly could and find the answers no matter what. And so I would just say, again, it was just going through the numbers, putting in the reps, and just fighting through it
Would
for
you
sure.
say that it took a couple of months once you were licensed to get your first real estate client?
3 months. That well, I mean, I guess that was my first closing, but I had other clients, that actually I still work with today from the very beginning. I just sold their house. It was like 1.3. We just broke a record in that neighborhood, which is cool. But I met them right then, and that was 3 years ago or whatever, over 3 years ago. So I got clients before that that were like interested and they were looking to buy and looking to sell, but they just didn't transact until later, if that's what you mean. A lot of times real estate's a slow game, but my first closing was like, it was just right at the 3 month mark from whenever I started.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious, like for first time agents, to see like how fast they can expect results. And I think it's so important to realize when you get into this industry that, like you said, real estate can be a slow game. And, if you're willing to stick it out for the long haul, you'll be able to see the fruits of your labor, but you may not necessarily get that instant satisfaction. And I think there's something to be said about that because we live in a world where everybody's craving instant gratification. So as a realtor yourself, what would you say to someone who struggles with needing instant gratification, but they're in a field like real estate where that's not always the case?
Oh man, you have to make a mind shift right now, right? I mean, it's either like you're gonna put in the work, put in the time. It's like these people I'm mentoring, right? They're both, well, one of them's part time, one of them's full time. But point is like, you know, it's gonna take some time no matter what. And especially in this current market, it's gonna take some time. Like no matter how hard you grind it out, right? So you have to have the finances to wait a little while. So if you're full time and you don't have any other finances, you need to be doing everything you can to grab a client today and every single day. Every day you need to be chasing a client because it's going to take a little while, even if you're doing the right things. So if you're doing the wrong things, it's definitely going to take you a while. But if you're doing it part time, just know that it's still gonna come, but it's just gonna come down much slower, right? And it's just the easiest rule ever is like if you're losing more clients on the back end than you're attracting on the front end, then you're never gonna have a business, right? So if you're not putting in more clients into your database, then that's leaving your database. That's not responding to you anymore. Then eventually you're out of business. So I mean, even if it's part time, you at least have to be doing enough part time to where you're getting enough people coming into the business that you're attracting that you can actually grow a business. Otherwise, you're going to remain there forever. You might do a deal a year or whatever, but you're never going to grow anything to speak of to leave your job.
Yeah. I was also thinking about just real estate, buyers and sellers, even in the home buying and selling process, that doesn't always happen right away either, right? Sometimes there's bumps in the road. You have to work with so many different people to make things happen. When you're working with clients, how do you kind of like set their expectations for what's to come? Because as an agent, you have to set your own expectations going into the industry about when you're going to get your first client, And so it's the same goes for the buyers and sellers. How do you go about that?
Well, I mean, I buyers and sellers both. I think one of the number one things is you have to have a sit down talk and literally go over everyone's individual needs, because I wish I could sit here and tell you there's like a simple bam, bam, bam. But in there's kind of a rule, little basic thing. But at the end of the day, everyone's got like, some people need to move right now. They got a job over here. Well, you got to price your house differently because you got to sell it faster. You know what I mean? So, and some people are like, dude, I got this $3 million house, and if it don't sell in 6 months, I'm keeping it at this price, right? Everyone's so different, right? And so at the end of the day, it's very important that you sit down and that you're experienced. And if you're not experienced, I would say sit down with someone that is experienced with your client, because you have to give them real expectations, real like field markers, right? Like, this is what to expect at this time in 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. But then you gotta keep that communication going constantly. Like my biggest thing is I communicate all the time. I mean, I'd almost rather be the person that over communicates to a client than under communicates to a client. So even if we don't have like that many showings that week, because in this market, Thanksgiving time right now, for example, some showings aren't getting a lot of activity. Every week, I still fill them in. I'll give them a call, and if they don't answer, I give them a whole report by email or text or however they want it, right? You have to be very communicative with these people. So I hope that answers your question. But every situation is so different. It's very important that you like sit down with these people and give real expectations based off of what their needs are.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you just told me that because I think that's so important, especially for like new home buyers. I mean, it would be so
Yeah.
important that they would have a realtor that's willing to sit down with them and really paint a clear picture of what they can expect. Because I know me, I'm 25 years old. I wouldn't know the first thing. So if I had a realtor like you who was able to
Yeah.
break everything down for me, that would be the best case scenario. That's awesome that you do that.
Well, and you bring up a great point. I mean, whether it's a new time, first time home buyer, or whether it's someone that's been doing it a long time, that's actually something I love doing. I know a lot of agents get really tired on the buyer side because they have to do a lot of coaching, and it's almost like, okay, rates are like this right now, and you got to coach them through that process. I actually love that part for whatever reason. Like, so whether it's a first time home buyer or whatever, I just love spending that time with them. I love going to eat with them and just, hey, this is how it works. This is the economy. This is where it's at right now. This is what you can expect. And oh my God, did you hear about this? You could save some money with this. And did you talk to the lender yet? Do you know exactly what you need to get approved? And I just love walking people through that process. I almost like the first time home buyers sometimes because of that, right? And I think first time home buyers sometimes appreciate you more because you have more value to give to them. You know what I mean? Like people that have done 70 transactions, I love helping them. But, they know the process pretty damn good. You know what I mean? Whereas a first time person, they don't know anything, and you help them through the whole process. Now, by the end of this, you're like their best friend. Like you've helped them through so much. By the end of it, it's just insane. So, yeah.
Yeah, they need a little bit of hand holding. So I'm sure they appreciate having somebody like you who's actually excited to do that. Because I think there's probably many realtors out there who are like, ugh, not this again. You don't know anything, right? But you are obviously such a people person and you love the education part of real estate because you've been in leadership positions so many times. So it's clear that you are equipped to be in that position. So now how long have you been in real estate?
3 years, a little over 3 years.
3 years. There are so many freaking real estate agents out there. I want to know what you think sets you apart from the rest.
Well, I think a little bit we just touched on before. I love coaching people. I think that's what a lot of this process is. It's like, no matter how many times you've done it, there's a couple different things, right? First off, there's so many emotions involved whenever it's such a large asset, right? A first time home buyer, doesn't matter if it's a $300,000 house, it's still one of their biggest assets, if not their biggest asset. Or someone that's doing a $10 million house, right? I mean, it's always a very large asset, no matter what size of house it is. And so there's so many emotions involved. And I just think that dealing with so many people for so long, it's actually what I enjoy going through. I know that sounds kind of wild, but helping them through their emotional processes and just having the patience and just making them feel confident through that journey, right? But also, there's so many different people involved in every single transaction. Every given transaction has at least four people, seller, buyer, listing agent, buying agent. And I actually really enjoy the process of like getting all of these people together and then closing on a deal. So I know a lot of agents, it's like, that's what I hear all the time. It's on the other end of the phone is like, this or that. And they're just complaining about the other agent or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I actually got into Russ Lyon Sotheby's because I was doing a transaction while I was at EXP. And one of the agents at the end of it, and the deal backed out, by the way, which most agents would be like at each other about. She's like, you just handled that so well, and you were so awesome through this process, and you're just so smooth. Like, have you thought of joining another brokerage? Because you would really be a good fit over here. So, I just love that process. I love bringing everyone together and closing on a deal. I just think that it's an accomplishment every time. So, and then the negotiation piece of it, obviously being in sales for so long, a lot of these sales agents, like, they just don't know negotiations at all. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but they just don't. And so the negotiations part is super fun for me. Whether I'm on the selling side of it, the buying side of it, the negotiation process is just awesome for me. I don't know. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. I just think being in sales for so long, you just know people very, very well. And I just think that it just goes a long ways. So many different topics. I mean, I probably can keep rambling, but I think those are probably a couple of the biggest ones.
Yeah, what I'm hearing stand out in your sharing is the teamwork that goes into a real estate transaction is one of
Yeah.
your favorite parts about being a realtor. And that's cool because I'm sure there are countless realtors who find that to be the worst and most stressful part of the job.
I know I cut you off, sorry, but another thing that you mentioned that is like the grit of it. Like I know we just have a newborn and everything like that, but at the end of the day, I'm in the service industry. Like we are at the service of our clients, right? And so the grit part from the other previous jobs or whatever I've had is that is very big for this because at the end of the day, whenever a client texts and says, "Hey, I'm in town tomorrow and I want to see a house," like you better get your ass ready and line that up and go sell the house. It don't matter what you had lined up with your family. And, that's another reason why I love my wife, by the way. I have to say that. But, it's like that grit and that like always on, just you always have to be on in real estate, especially if you want to do anything good in real estate. Like you're always on because at any given point, someone's going to hit you up and you have to be there for them. You're in service of them or you have nobody. So I would definitely say the grit and the competitiveness from the other sales, ventures or whatever definitely helped out with this for sure.
Yeah, I'm hearing you say that being a real estate agent requires a pretty big commitment because you're not in this clock in, clock out, 9 to 5 role. You're in a position where at any moment you could be needed by someone. And that's kind of, where your success comes from is how available are you to serve people. And it seems like in your dynamic within your marriage is that your wife understands that like you're providing for the family and there might be some sacrifices that you have to take, but that's important to know is like I would want to have a realtor that is willing to make those kind of sacrifices for me. So I think that's awesome that you are a family oriented man. It's very obvious to see that in working with you for the last couple months. But at the same time, you also really value your career and you take your real estate business very seriously.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of my biggest things is like, how can you take care of your family the right way if you don't first have the income to take care of them? Right. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to backtrack a little bit to touch more on the fact that you really have to play team in real estate because you're dealing with so many people in any one transaction. Knowing that that can get kind of stressful, um, what do you think helps you manage the overwhelm of that so that you don't get caught up in the emotions of working with different personalities and the bumps in the road that can often happen in real estate?
honestly, so far, there's nothing as crazy as five different team leaders with five different fans with door to door, type A, crazy competitive salespeople. And that is an emotional roller coaster. So far, like dealing with five people at a time and this kind of, I don't know. I don't know how else to say it besides like the past definitely made this seem easy. Not that it is, but it's like this is cakewalk compared to dealing with that to me.
That's so true. You've learned in your 13 years of selling door-to-door vacuum and then your, almost 4 years selling CBDs, like you are interacting with people from all walks of life, people who have very different energies, personalities, traits, characteristics. And as a salesperson, you really have to know how to meet people where they're at while also being able to move them towards action, right? So I'm sure that there's a lot that goes into your ability to connect with your clients and meet people where they're at, and also, kind of be able to achieve the desired result and goal that they have at the same time.
Yeah, very true. And, I definitely would say that, uh, yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I just love coaching people and I just love dealing with people. I love meeting them where they're at. I think it just goes into the fact that I love helping myself as much as I can so I can help others too, right? Like I go to went to every Tony Robbins event. I joined the Ed Milet Arate thing. I'm always very big on helping myself personally as well. And I think that also just helps me, with also meeting people where they're at. And because, you have to be good with anything like this. If you want to scale it or, deal with a high volume of sales, you have to deal with a lot of people. And so that means I have to be good with interacting with a lot of people. And typically that's not going to come easy because typically you only relate to the people that are like you, right? And so I have to get really good at dealing with all types of walks of life. I honestly think my childhood brought me up pretty good for that. My dad talks to anybody. And so I'm pretty sure that I got that from my dad a little bit. But also, I'm constantly working on that. I'm constantly striving to be better at that. And I'm constantly striving to, just be a better leader. And I love just reading into all that stuff. So I don't know. I think all of that plays a part to be, handling people a lot better.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that you have developed your emotional intelligence. That speaks to your ability to connect and relate and empathize with people. And EQ, emotional intelligence, is often a lot more powerful of a skill to have than even IQ, because it's the people oriented relationship skill abilities. And with personal development, that's basically what you're investing in. You're investing in your emotional intelligence. And so I think it's so cool that you're someone who has spent years learning about who you are, developing your self awareness, and always looking for opportunities to grow personally and professionally. That's something I value. And because I value that, I want to do business with other people who also value that. So you probably attract a lot of growth minded, clients who are
Yeah.
open in that way.
First off, you said that beautifully. And you're like, everything you just said, spot on. And you're exactly right. I definitely attract the, people that are just trying to be the best they can be, the best version of themselves is typically who I attract. I mean, I've had so many clients now that we've become great friends because of the exact same thing, right? So, yeah, I mean, you said it really beautifully, but you're very, very right.
Yeah. So I also heard something about how you have great negotiation skills. That sounds like it would be a very important skill to have as a real estate agent. Do you have
Yeah.
any tip that you could give about negotiation just for fun?
Yeah, watch out if you're on the other end of me. No, but it's just like be very, very prepared, right? I mean, you can't negotiate if you don't know every single house that's sold around the area very well, and exactly why. And it's just you got to know you just got to be very, very prepared so you can properly negotiate. I think most people, it's so funny today. I go, talk to like, let's just say on the listing side, you know, I will have someone come to me and try to talk about a price. And then I start talking about, oh, this comp, and they don't even know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, all right, awesome. You obviously can't even talk to me because you haven't even looked and done the research yourself. You're just trying to get a better deal. right? So how about you bring back to your client, this, and this, and I had a whole bunch of value because I was more prepared, so I just be more prepared, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would certainly want you to advocate on my behalf. If one day I move to Arizona, I know who I'm calling to be my real estate agent. By the way, do you serve like the Phoenix area in Arizona? Because Arizona can, there's Tucson. What parts do you operate in?
Well, Phoenix Metro, but I mean, I target my marketing in Scottsdale, but at the end of the day, I just went all the way down to Maricopa, which is like an hour and a half from me, and just help someone buy a house down there. So, yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm anywhere that I need to be, right? But where my marketing goes is Paradise Valley, Scottsdale. It's where, like, right now, 85% of my business is there. But again, I go everywhere in the Phoenix Metro. So,
Okay. And then what would you say are your future goals in real estate?
hands down, build a team. I'm not exactly sure. We can talk more about that later or whatever, but for sure, build a team. I'm already mentoring some agents, and the whole goal is to build a massive team with a bunch of agents, and we're very competitive with it. So I don't ever do anything without trying to be, the best at it. And so I'm going to do the exact same thing here, right? I want to be the very best real estate team that's out there.
I love that because if you have a team, you have the ability to make an even bigger impact. And that's another thing that you and I have connected over as we've built out your brand is that we're constantly thinking about how we can make a difference for people. Obviously, you wouldn't be a real estate agent if that wasn't important to you. So building a team, what's going to be cool about that is seeing how you shape the people underneath you to be able to reach the results that you've reached yourself. And I know you've already kind of experienced that having been in the leadership roles, in the past.
Yeah, thank you. And you're exactly right. I mean, one of my biggest things that I absolutely love doing is helping and coaching someone else. Like we were just talking about before with a house. I love it even more with a salesperson, right? And so I just love training agents. Like one of the things I loved in Kirby, for example, was taking someone that didn't know anything, never even been in sales before, teaching them how to sell something, then teaching them how to manage some salespeople, and then, just growing these people into where they can make good money, right? And just be a better manager overall and learn how to sell something. And they're really proud of that. And so I just love teaching that process. I love teaching people how to get into a home and save the most amount of money or the right home for them. But I also love teaching agents as well. So I just love doing that.
Yeah, I also want to ask you when you first got started in real estate and you got your license, did you have somebody above you that was mentoring you or providing you with like one on one coaching the way you want to do it with your future team?
No, I actually, to this day, I kept seeking people out, but I wish I would have tried harder. Like I wish I would have just gave the right people, like the very top people in the business, just gave them even more of my money because I would be even farther ahead if I did. Even if they took almost all my money, but I could just learn from them, I would be even way further than I am now. So no, I did not get that. I just kind of learned a lot of it on my own. Now that I'm at Russ Lyon, there's a couple little things that they're kind of helping and stuff like that. But no, I did not really get a lot of help. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about mentoring, for example, is because I love to see people that do it in way faster time than me, and I don't think someone should have to go through all that trouble themselves like I did. And I know I put myself through some of that, right? But I don't think someone should have to go through that. I think that uh, if I know I can help someone be a way better version of a real estate agent in a shorter time than it took me to get there, for sure.
Yeah. I was going to say that I think that is what makes you so dedicated to wanting to carve this path for first time agents because you didn't necessarily have that kind of mentorship that you wish you would have had. But what's cool about that too is like that you're a self taught, in many ways you did learn things through real estate school and whatever you watched, but it's cool that you had to go through your own personal experiences, learn from trials and tribulations, and go down that route. Because I think that'll make you a great leader when you educate more people on how to be successful in real estate.
I'm really good at telling people what kind of thousands of dollars not to spend because I've already wasted it in areas that sucked, right? So, yeah, I mean, let's just say I've learned a lot through the through the process, right? And that I've had a lot of thousands of learning to get where I'm at, right? So I could definitely help people in the right path for sure.
Yeah, and I know that you said you've always been interested in real estate. Are you interested at all in the real estate investing side of things?
Yeah, so we actually have one rental right now. It's this little condo, but and we actually just bought this home because we had our daughter. And so for all these people that are trying to buy right now and says the interest is too crazy, I did it. I was one of the people that did it, right? So anyway, if anyone has more questions about that, happy to answer that. But yeah, so we rent one right now, and our whole goal is to just keep on accumulating more and more rentals, as time comes. And I think being in real estate is amazing because you get to see all you know, the people that are motivated sellers. I get to walk in the homes first when I'm selling them. And so just the more money we accumulate, the more we're going to start snatching up these good deals. I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah, that is really exciting. I don't know a ton about real estate investing, but I've got a lot of clients whose brands I'm working on, and it seems like that is a very great path to go down. So I'm glad you're going that route.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, so the home that you're currently filming in, you own this house, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And this is the house you bought during the interest rates skyrocketing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
And so were you, I'm assuming, the realtor on your own house?
Oh yeah, for sure. And just in case you're wondering, we got we paid a price for it and then had it appraised, right? And it appraised for, let's see, 50,000 more than what we paid for it. So that's negotiation again.
Oh man, that's the ideal situation, huh?
Yeah.
So in your opinion, because you do own the house that you live in and that you're filming at right now, why is buying a house so important?
Well, I mean, to me, it comes down pretty simple. I mean, no matter what, if you're renting, even if the economy, so right now everyone's talking about, should I rent or should I own, right? And even though renting is less, think about this. I mean, let's just say let's just say you spend $25,000 this year on renting, which is what most people are going to do. Any house you buy, the economy would have to go south pretty big, unless you're like a luxury buyer, right? Which are usually not renting. But the market would have to downshift a lot to make up just that $25,000. So if you have the money to get into a house, right, which there's zero, down programs that the government provides, so it's pretty easy to get into a house nowadays. There's just no real reason to not be putting your money into your own bank account, essentially with your equity in your house. You're paying someone anyway. You know what I mean? Why not buy your own damn house instead of paying for someone else's house? And if you are going to rent, that's fine. I'm going to buy a lot of rentals and you can rent from me.
There come those scale skills.
Yeah, I mean, the only way it really makes sense for like renting, in my opinion, is if you're like, you have a job, you're going to live there for 6 months and then you're leaving, or, something like that. Other than that, why are you going to rent? If you're going to be in one place long term, why rent? You're just throwing your money somewhere else. And eventually, it's always through time, it's always better long term to do it.
Yeah. That makes sense because you can build equity in a home, and with rent you're just basically throwing money away. I mean, I lived in San Diego for 2 years before returning to Las Vegas where I'm from, and I was just throwing money away every month. And it
Yeah.
honestly pained me to do that. Right now I'm in a pretty good situation because I'm reunited with my parents here and I'm living in their house. So I got a good setup.
Even better.
But I mean, everybody says that, like, for me at 25 years old, the market is just impossible for any of us to buy a home in. So it feels pretty discouraging. What would you say to the younger generation who have never bought a home before? Would you just tell them, hey, yeah, the interest rates suck right now, but it's still better to do that than to rent?
Buy the home and refinance later. I mean, it's literally what I'm doing. So, okay, cool. I mean, it sucks. There's no way around it. It sucks, right? I mean, like a couple years ago or whatever, you could buy a house way larger for the same money, for the same monthly payment. Now you have to buy less of a house for the same monthly payment. Who cares? Buy the house, right? Refinance later when rates are better. but at least you're investing into something that is yours. So yeah, I mean, it's not as good as it was a couple of years ago, right? But it's also not as competitive as it was before. You had to overpay for every house you bought, right? And so it's really, really hard to get into buying a house, right? And so it's funny because now the interest rates are higher, which is the only way to slow down the market. And so there's way less competition on a house. And now all the buyers are like, oh, well, there's, now the interest is high. Well, before you had to come up with way extra money down payment or you couldn't even be in the game. Well, now you can have way less money brought to the table and you can compete, you can negotiate a lot better on a deal. And they're still like, oh, well, now the interest is high. So I would just say there's always an excuse if you're looking for one. Buy the damn house, stay in it for a while, and build your equity. It really makes no sense. Unless you're just moving all the time, it makes no sense. You're just throwing money out the window.
All right. I'm going to take that into account. Okay. um,
Hey, with living with your parents, though, you're not throwing money out the window. So, just save all your cash and then go buy
yeah,
a
for now, I'm
house.
in a good place. I'm not trying to get out of there really fast, but it is good to know, if I have friends that are looking at renting or buying, that's good information. And how long have you lived in Arizona by now?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. What's your favorite part about living there? Because I love Phoenix.
Man, you have everything around here. My wife and I, before she was pregnant, we were part of like a vineyard. It was like an hour north. You have the ocean. It's 3.5 hours south. You have every landscaping. You have the woods up north. You can even go skiing up north, right? And then obviously you have the desert landscape here. So, I mean, you have everything that's right around you. For us, we're pretty outdoorsy people. My wife, even more so than me, but she loves hiking, mountain biking, just all that stuff. And you could do any of that around here. So, and it's great for business. I mean, it's not the number one best for taxes, but their policy is pretty damn good for businesses. So, hence the reason why we're having so many businesses move to Arizona. Definitely coming from California. So I just overall, I love it here. It's fantastic. Well, and it's a touristy spot, right? So Scottsdale itself, they a lot of their taxes go to like just making it a very resort style feel area, right? Because it is such a tourist spot, and that's how they make a lot of their money. They can't get rid of that, and so they make it very clean, make it very beautiful. So it's just an awesome area to live.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I'm in Vegas, which is not very different from Arizona. It's similar in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but it's always nice to come down to Scottsdale. I love the architecture over there. And you know what I just thought of? Do I have it right that you're from Kansas?
Yeah.
That
Yep.
is such a drastic change to go from
Yeah.
Kansas to Arizona. Like,
Yeah.
can you just tell me a little bit about your background growing up?
Well, where do I start? So we grew up. My first off, we lived in a house outside of what's called Seneca, Kansas. Most people never even know what the hell that is. It's a very, very small town in Kansas, right? My mom and dad divorced. My mom rented a house on like a dairy farm, so we lived there for some years, and then she moved into a really tiny town. My dad lived in a really tiny town. I mean, like 300 people. So yeah, I mean, just very country-like feel. I started Kirby though in like Topeka, Kansas, which is of course a city, and then I moved everywhere. I mean, I moved to Jefferson City, Joplin, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, Tulsa, Oklahoma, a couple areas in Dallas, Texas. Just all over the board, and then it kind of led me here. So, I would say that I definitely miss some things about country life for sure. Like I love the people. We never locked our doors. Better lock your doors now, mom, because now I'm saying it. But we never we never locked our doors. I mean, it's just an awesome place to live, right? I mean, it's like one of those things where if someone waves, you're gonna wave back at them because you're probably gonna see them again. I mean, the likely chances you're gonna see them again, right? And so no one really stole from anybody. It's just an awesome place to live, right? So I love the morals there, the ethics, whatever you want to say, the culture. But I love the city because I love the opportunity. I love business. I want to be the best version of myself, and I really think that the city is what provides that. With all the people and stuff like that. So I love when I go back home and visit. I just absolutely love it. But the city is what provides what I want for sure.
I think
So
it's good to hear that you've actually moved around a lot because I'm sure there's people who are coming to Arizona that are relocating from an entirely different state. So I think that's also something that sets you apart is that you weren't born and raised in Arizona. You actually know what it's like to pick up and move several states over and being new to a city. And so you can relate
yeah,
to clients, especially those who are coming
yeah,
from totally different area.
very good point.
So, you mentioned a couple times that your wife was pregnant, that now you have a newborn. How old is your newborn? Is it a boy or a girl? Yeah.
Her name is Camila. She just turned a month old, so we're super happy. Definitely still trying to catch up on sleep, but she's the best thing that ever happened to us for sure. There's no doubt about it.
And you're a first time dad. Let's mention that. This isn't your second or third kid. This is your first baby girl.
Yeah, still our first. Still trying to figure it out. I feel like, but yeah, I mean, it's just so crazy. Whenever she looks at you, it's like you just forget about everything else in the world. I mean, it's kind of. I think everyone that's a parent kind of knows the same thing, but yeah, it's just a special feeling whenever you're a parent. Definitely makes me want to be even a better person because I always feel like someone's watching me, and I just feel like she's going to continue to watch me, and I think her habits are going to come from me, and so it just makes me want to be even a better person because she's going to watch me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I couldn't say enough good things about being a parent. It's hard, but I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me anyway, and it's only been a month, so.
You answered the question before I was even able to ask it because I was going to say, how has fatherhood changed your life so far? So I'll ask you something else. Um, if there was one lesson that you could impart on your daughter as she grows up, what would you want that lesson to be?
Hard work can get you anything you want if you believe it. So I think hard work and believing it is the two most biggest things you can have. So everything else kind of falls into place, I think. I think if you have hard work and you believe it, you can achieve anything. So
Yeah, the self-belief
that's it.
component is pretty important because your mind is so powerful. You got to have that confidence and the determination to go out and get it, right? Whatever you're hungry for in your life, as long as you have the grit, like you mentioned several times,
Yeah.
and you put in the actions to get you the results that you want,
Yeah.
then you're going to get there.
Yeah, and I think my wife and I talk about it a lot, but one thing we're very conscious of is we don't want to be how do I want to say that? We don't want to set limitations on her. I feel like maybe both of our past had that a little bit, right? But they love you, but it's like all they know is where they've been. And I don't want to put any limitations on our daughter, right? So we're very intentional with like, we want her to, whatever she wants to achieve, but we want her to know that she can fight for it, that she can go do that. That, if she, wants to be a scientist or whatever, the best real estate empire, whatever it is she wants to do, that she can do it and go take the risk. Like what happens if you fail, right? Like no big deal. Go take the risk. You'll learn from it, right? Instead of like, I feel like so many, parents are like, oh man, when it gets hard, they're like, are you sure you're doing that right? Like I remember when I was in Kirby, right? It's like when I was selling in the beginning and making some money, everything was great, right? I got a new car. No one said anything. But whenever it got really hard, the first time I was like running my own office and like, it was the terrible times, right? Like I lost the office. I ruined my credit. My car got repoed. Like it was the bad shit, right? And everyone's like, what are you doing this for? Get out of this. Like, why are you still in it? And, I could have sold myself short and got out right then. Right. And they don't know anything. They all love me. So they're trying to look out for me. Like, why would someone endure that pain? Right. I don't want to do that. I just want her to, whatever she wants, I'm going to be there for her. And I just, yeah, keep going for it. You know what I mean? Like, you'll get it. Just keep going for it. And I don't know how else to say it than that, but like, I don't want to put any limitations on our daughter. You know what I mean? It's very big to me.
Yeah, I've heard this quote, and I'm probably not going to say it correctly, but it goes along the lines of the biggest mistake you can make in parenting is not following your own dream. Because as your kids grow up, they're watching you. Like you said, now that you have a daughter, all eyes are on you. You got to be a role model. You got to step up to the plate. So what's cool about hearing your entire journey is that your life is a testament to being intentional, having a goal, and going after it with, the grit and the determination and just the commitment to go all in. So I just want to congratulate you on the birth of your baby girl, you and your wife. And I've loved getting to know you as your brand strategist. I'm really excited for the rest of your podcast episodes and to see you cranking out more video content so the world can get to know you on a broader scale. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And just so we're clear, I've definitely had a lot of lessons of what not to do for my daughter too. So that's good, right? I mean, it definitely was not a peachy life, right? So there's definitely a lot of lessons that she can learn from dad on like what not to do. Don't ever do that, right? That's definitely there. But yeah, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for those kind words. I mean, I can't wait to, it's crazy. I didn't want to even do any of this at first, right? I never wanted to be this guy. And then now that I'm kind of doing it, I have a whole new respect. And I'm like, I really love it, right? Because it pulls out the real you and it's like, whatever, it's kind of, everyone, it's out there. You know what I mean? So just be you, right? So I love it, you know?
Yeah, I remember our first call. You were like, a podcast? I don't know about that. And now here we are.
Yeah, I was like, no.
But it's cool because it goes to show you that you're someone who's open minded. Again, you love personal development, you love expanding and seeing what else you can do to make a bigger difference for people. So, having this podcast and this platform is going to allow you to reach the clients that you're meant to serve. And I can't wait to see how you grow from here.
Well, thank you very, very much. And if you don't have anything else to say, then I'm just going to say thank you very much for interviewing me. I really, really appreciate that. Whenever we were talking about my story, I was like, I don't really know if I want to get on there. And she's like, well, you're really good at just talking. Why don't I just interview you? I'm like, all right, let's do that. But thank you very much. And for anyone else that wants to know more about like the Scottsdale real estate or just Scottsdale in general, make sure to subscribe. If you caught anything good from this story, leave a review. We'd love to see a review so more people can hear about us. And we really appreciate it.